Since this weekend, we've been hearing that all of this violence, it's not, the righteous outpouring of anger that's been boiling over for literally decades, or outside, cops and things like that, right-wingers. No, it's Antifa. Antifa, 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 Antifa. They're the big issue, but apparently not. New report, some information leaked to friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein. His report is available at The Nation, and it shows that the FBI's Washington field office, quote, has no intelligence indicating Antifa involvement or presence in the violence that occurred on May 31st during the D.C. area protests over the murder of George Floyd. This is according to an internal FBI situation report obtained exclusively by The Nation, and in particular by Ken Klippenstein, who, man, people love to leak to Kenny Clips. And by the way, so that was for May 31st. The FBI has been issuing such reports daily since the weekend, according to an FBI source, who added that none of these documents contained any evidence of Antifa violence. There are receipts, and Kenny Clips is bringing them.
Well, those rogue agents at the FBI, we know, have been forming groups of people against Trump since his inauguration, as we've been told over and over again. And then he cleans out house and puts them in people that don't do anything. So, whenever truth and reality comes out, something has to be done to make sure no more truth or reality comes out, because we're living in a false, fake fantasy world that Donald Trump has created for us. So I don't know how many people see this. How many people actually question what they believed that he said before, and now we need to do something different. But this is just more evidence of it. I don't know. It's at this point, anybody who doesn't know the reality and the truth of how these things work just isn't paying attention, and they don't want to learn. So, yeah. I mean, there's no need in telling people who aren't listening and just want to go, hey, so the FBI now, because again, in case people forgot, I feel like I'm assuming that we remember all this stuff. He's delegitimized intelligence communities, certain aspects of law enforcement, of course, because they had to investigate the things that he was doing illegally. So all these things that every time someone has something against him, he has to delegitimize their existence, not the story, not with any kind of proof, not with anything that pushes back or receipts that say the opposite. It's just they're out to get me.
Yeah.
What does fake news mean without any proof? It just means I believe so. That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah.
So all these things in pushing to keep people from believing facts that come out are based in opinions, straight up.
He called, do you remember the VA hydroxychloroquine study? He later, that proved that it didn't actually help people and in fact could increase the risk of death. He later referred to that as an enemy document from the deep state operatives in the VA med service. Yeah. Well, apparently the deep state's working with Ken Klippenstein now and leaking documents to him, much to Trump's chagrin, especially since from the time when that FBI report initially is covering, Trump was saying, we're going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. Of course, either missing or hoping that you will miss the fact that it's not an organization. He has no legal authority to say that it's a terrorist organization. And even if it were an organization, it is not a terrorist organization. So none of it actually makes any sense.
Also, let's keep in mind that this administration has refused to investigate, to expose findings already also of the rabid white supremacist terrorism organization groups that we have in this country. This problem we have with uprisings of white supremacy that has been escalated since he came into office. So if they've escalated and have risen to prominence since he's been in office, why would he go up against them? No, it's strictly a political move. It's strictly something to make sure that he looks a certain way, and those are his buddies. The white supremacists are his buddies. So
we're gonna have a little bit more on that.
They must be the terrorist organization.
Yeah, and look, the thing is, it's Trump, obviously, but it's also Bill Barr. After that tweet, Bill Barr said in a statement, the violence instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly. He didn't say if Antifa did this and if it was violent. He said they've done it and it's domestic terrorism, even though the FBI, which he is umbrella in charge of, is saying there's no evidence whatsoever that they're even involved, that they were there. And so the thing that they did find in that report, by the way, was that individuals from a far-right social media group had called for far-right provocateurs to attack federal agents, use automatic weapons against protesters. So there were warnings of violence, but it was for right-wing groups. As JR pointed out, those they're not going to talk about. They're not interested in cracking down on that. I don't see Bill Barr talking about designating them as terrorist groups or anything like that.
So, I mean, as we look to mine Americans' web searches and computer searches and things they do online, we'll find these types of things as well. Because, by the way, you don't have to do too much data mining to find white supremacist groups organizing and looking to do damage in the communities online. It's not like it takes a lot. So after they get through mining everyone else's business, are they going to go after these guys too? Are they going to make sure they don't pull these things off? Or are they going to continue to support this type of activity? Because, by the way, Barr is not a stupid person, but he's been saying ignorant, clueless, mindless things because in order to support a president like this, you have to become him. So you have to be void of all normal logic and thought processes. He even did it when he's talking about the mail-in voting issue. He goes, I haven't looked into the issue. I haven't looked into it all, but what I can tell you is that I'm concerned about there being serious fraud.
Yeah.
You literally prefaced it by saying you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You just need to say it.
He makes all of them as bad as he is. They have to be as ignorant as him, as cowardly as him, as opposed to the media as him, or else he'll strike them down. That's what they are.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.